and this is the problem we face when there's online. People avoid coming here. At least we expect people from Bangalore to attend the meet, and especially the PGs also. When the PGs has very poor attendance. Anyway, we will start off with the meet, and I'm happy to welcome Dr. Vivek Durai, who is the Deputy Director of Health and Family Medicine. He is in charge of KPME also. Also, it oversees implementation of all the various acts in the medical field. He is my good friend and my classmate. We studied together. I've been behind him to come and give a talk for the past months. Because of his busy schedule, it was getting postponed. Today it's maybe impossible to get him. First, we'll start off with the presentation by Dr. Manjit Patil. Today, the RV Group of Hospitals are the host. After two presentations, we'll tell Dr. Vivek Durai to give a talk on KPME, so that by the time we expect some more to join us. Thank you.
Good evening, seniors and colleagues. This is just one single case. As such, only you get these cases when your orthopedic colleague refers to you. Okay, so let me start this. So it's a vascularized bone graft for the scaphoid. It's a volar approach. As such, we have got both volar as well as the dorsal approach, and dorsal seems relatively easy, but this is a volar approach. Why did? Scaphoid is a complex geometry and poor blood supply, and it is prone for non-healing. It's a well-known entity. Now coming to the point, the indication is for scaphoid non-union with avascularity or even with the hypovascularity, which your orthopedician would have already decided it. And even if necessary, people recommend it for the non-union without a frank signs of hypovascularity. You can as well do that. It's likely to heal better, even if there is no issue with the vascularity. And also, and the most important point here is not to damage the articular surface of the radius. So how to make out that? Just use a needle. In reality, you will not be able to see all this, and only way to do is to just pierce a needle and check where exactly it is. Otherwise, it will end up hitting the osteotomy either here or there. So just insert a needle that will safeguard the articular surface, and based on that, you can design that flap, vascularized flap. So here is the anatomy. Pedicle, actually this is a pedicle which arises from the radial styloid. Also, if you see, it is approximately around 1.5 centimeter from the radial styloid if this pedicle arises, and generally the length of pedicle is around 3 centimeter. It may vary, and all you have to do is osteotomize this along with the vascular pedicle and transfer this to scaphoid, and as well you can use this for the lunate also. And the contraindication, if there is an existing osteoarthritis or any previous trauma, you are not supposed to do this. Now this is the execution. This is the flap which I have marked, and this is the pedicle, this is the radial artery. These are the markings which I have done, and the pedicle artery. I am not sure how clear the pictures are. And after osteotomy, distally, proximally, and on the ulnar side, and I have passed a bone hook beneath the pedicle. So this is how it looks like. The radial artery, pedicle, and when you are raising the pedicle, preserve the strip of periosteum along with that, so that the vascularity is maintained. Now this is a picture. This is a radial artery, this is a pedicle, this is a cortical surface, this is a cancellous surface. Now the same thing is pedicle, and this is a cancellous and the cortical surface. I'm not sure how good it is seen here, but there will be a good vascularity once if you osteotomize and separate it. Subsequently, it will be transferred to the fracture site. Now, this is after deflation of the tourniquet, that's why pictures are not very clear. So, this is the distal pole, this is the proximal pole, and in between we are fixing the vascularized bone graft. Now, these are the guide wires which orthopedician has put it. Now there are two ways of fixing it. One, either graft is wedged into the non-union and followed by compression screws. And now we have to be little very careful not to damage the pedicle. Preferably if the screw passes to the distal part of the pedicle, then well and good. If it is on the proximal side, it is likely to damage the pedicle. Alternatively, you can first pass the screw, leave a little gap and push that flap and tighten the screw. In both the cases, make sure that there is not too much of a compression and causing damage to the vascularized graft. This is how it looks like when complete fixation is done. Preferably, the screw should pass somewhere here distally, not on the proximal side, somewhere here. Sir?
You're very lucky to do one case. Normally, you don't get to do.
Yes.
Never seen a scene. Almost everyone is clever. That's what I know that.
But going through the literature, I found the dorsal aspect
Dorsal is
is much easier than this. Similarly, you can, the first and second compartment, you can as well do it on the fourth and fifth compartment also. They're quite superficial and just flip it rather than rotating here.
Molar is good for wrist fractures.
Yes.
And the dorsal, if you go to do for the whole dorsal, it's
Okay.
ಅದು ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ
Sorry for the language. Good evening. I'm sharing the experience of using cadaveric grafts in our corporate setup. It's rare to see burns in corporate setup, and when we most of the corporate won't treat burns, but we had a option of treating 2 pediatric major burns because our pediatric team was they had given good care and they wanted to take up and the challenge. So we thought of treating because so we had to use we used cadaveric grafts because that was the only way to save the life in these major burns. We had an opportunity to take the help from Victoria Hospital Skin Bank. I'm sharing that experience. Case 1, 8-year-old child, electrical contact burns contacted the sole and child had around 65% flash burns, electrical flash burns. Around 50% were third degree. Both thighs involved circumferentially, perineum involved, scrotum, penis, abdomen and flanks. Day 3, because we had an option of, we had child had an SU setup, pediatric unit supporting everything, and we asked for a cadaveric grafts, it was available. So the only way to save the child was to do an early excision. We did day 3 tangential excision, and around 1000 square centimeter of cadaver grafts are borrowed from Skin Bank Victoria Hospital, and we started excising the thighs, anterior part of the body, so that keep the posterior part later. But the child was stable enough, so went and excised most of it except the around the groin, where it was very messy. Covered all the grafts. These are post burn day 11, how the cadaver graft looked, and on post burn day 15. By that, I think 12 days, the first set of cadaver grafts are peeling off, and the child had developed Acinetobacter in the wound, but child never went for any sepsis. Hemodynamic stable and no other complications. This is the second set of cadaver grafts put on post-burn day 16, and by post-burn day 26. By 26 days, the second set of cadaver grafts were almost peeling off. So the child was stable, and most of the other secondary deep areas were healed, and we ended up having this kind of raw areas. That is on post-burn day 39. We put the autografts we took from the both legs, and we meshed it, and then used it as stamp grafts and covered most of the abdomen, front of the thighs in the first setting. And by post-burn day 37, 43, where almost all the grafts are taken except a few in the upper thighs. Post-burn day 52, that the status of the graft, there was still raw areas left over, but the child remained stable. Post-burn day 58, we did the second set of autografts. We took from the back of the left thigh and the lower part of the thigh. You can see this is the donor side, back of the thighs and a little bit on the legs. We thought of taking from the abdomen, back of the back, and put it on the back of the thighs, but we could get some grafts from the thigh itself. So at 10 weeks, after the second set of SSG, most of the wounds healed except the buttocks. The child discharged at around 10 to 11 weeks. Never had any frank sepsis. Only he had a momentary SRS response only, but the child was stable. Blood culture was sterile. Wound culture, the second culture at Klebsiella, the first culture was Acinetobacter. Child still needs a grafting of buttocks. And the child discharged about 10 weeks. So second child, soon after this child got discharged, about 2 weeks he got on the child. Thermal burns around 35%, 45%. Initially it looked all pink. First day it looks small areas of secondary depression, looked like secondary superficial. But and when we saw on the second day, means the first day we saw an emergency, second day we went and did a dressing, the OT. It was very dicey to check whether it is secondary superficial or it is going to be the third degree. But it became obvious. We waited for about 3-4 days thinking how it's going to be there. But by post-op day 7, the child, means the way the discharge was coming from the wound, because we had put bad in dressings, we thought of keeping it for a week and see how much will epithelize. But post-op day 7, I thought that the child needs excision. We asked for once again cadaver graft from the Victoria. We got it. So we took on post-op day 8 and we did excision of the. See that's what how all areas were deep except some suprapubic area and the margins. So around 35% were deep. So that was a tangential excision. Cadaver grafts at post-burn day 8. This is how it looked on post-burn day 14. You can see there is epithelialization going under the cadaver grafts. And post-burn day 20th means after the cadaver grafts 12 days. You can see on the chest some amount of the wound is healed under the cadaver grafts. It was difficult to peel the cadaver grafts, but some areas it came out well and some areas it's already epithelialized, integrated. The dermis was integrated. So we went ahead and post-burn on 25th, we put autografts from both legs. We took grafts, missed and covered most of the areas because there was a lot of intermingling epithelialization going on. One set of grafting helped by post-burn at 28. Most of the wounds healed now at post-burn at 38. That's around 5 weeks. Say the child is almost healed except small rhyoid and it's ready for discharge now. So here also 6th week, I think we are just keeping it for 1 more week for the convenience. Even though child has sepsis, but never went into any frank sepsis. Never, both patients never deteriorated, and there is a good epithelialization under the pediatrics. So 2 pediatric burns, extensive burns. The help of PSU, that was a very major support we had. Both children were in ICU for a longer time, and we charged them as a general ward in ICU. That's how we could manage the finances. And tangential excision early in the first week and use of cadaver grafts. Then we did all pain-free procedures under anesthesia. Crowdfunding helped in both cases, and hospital also supported by giving a lot of concession on these patients. And we could discharge both children really in a good short period of time. So we should acknowledge the timely help from the Victoria Hospital Bank, the crowdfunding platforms, the pediatric team, and the anesthesia team.
I tried donor cadaver graft, taking a graft from the relatives or the donors, live donors.
We used to do in St. John's, and I have used it in BGS 2-3 children. One from mother, one a security guard in the hospital donated for a child.
You need a license to put live skin. As per the Transplant Act, which includes tissues right now, you cannot do a live skin transplant. That's called as a live skin transplant. So St. John's, we have applied for a license to apply live skin. We were using a lot of live allografts prior to this. The Transplant Act initially didn't include the tissue, but include only the organs. I don't know in which year they have included tissues, and it includes skin also.
So right. It's illegal to do it.
What we had asked was, nobody told us whether it is legal. Everyone told it is illegal, but we didn't have a license. So what was told to us finally was that if you are not able to get allografts, if there are no other alternatives for resurfacing a excised burn, then as a last resort, as a life-saving measure, you do it. This is what our department had decided till we get the license. We have yet to get our license. We have applied it 2 years back. So,
I think till 2008 or 9, I think we were using extensively
yes.
homografts in
We
St.
have
John's.
about
After
25
that, I think
years
it has been
experience.
used. So now we have cadaver graft, but the reason of presentation is that 2 things. One is that we have skin banks available in Bangalore, so we have a lot of burn skills coming to our hospitals, private and public sector. So where we can have the utility of this cadaver graft, definitely we can save lives, and it needs a lot of team support from the ICU care, either pediatric ICU or adult ICU care, and a good maybe in corporate setup the finances becomes an issue. But if we really work around that and keeping the main aim of saving a person's life, we can still do it in even the private sector. That's the message.
Fantastic results, 45 and 65, excellent. Did you complete the excision in one setting, or you did the excision in 2 settings? Because generally at St. John's, we would excise 65% in one setting.
No, 65%, but in that around 45 to 50% were deep. And most of the buttocks we couldn't excise. The perineal area, the perineum, suprapubic areas near because a lot of scrotal edema, the penis has gone, the glands finally totally demarcated and sloughed off. So that area we couldn't even excise, we wanted to excise it. So we just excised which was completely deep. There was a black invasive sepsis where we excised covered with, that's the best thing was, we had to excise, but the only way is to cover with something.
It's difficult to hold on to a large raw area for almost a month. It is very, very
The
difficult.
thing is, this is both are children and nice utilization capacity, and also in a big adult the area is much huge and it may not be such a feasibility in adult burns, but these two are the children burns, so get away.
The second case, did it progress? You felt there was progression of the burn,
No,
right?
it looked secondary deep, secondary superficial, but even there was because it was a thermal burn, it was not scarred. So, but 5-6 days, the only progression of the child was having some fever, some increased counts and all. But whatever good dressing was soaking too much. So we wanted to keep it for a week, and then we know that it's not going to be, because I could see the depth of the burns which were seen. So we went ahead and did
So
the.
generally our experience when the wound has got macerated and probably some amount of infected, excision has not given a good result most of the time. So in St. John's, if a wound is infected, we wouldn't excise. We would probably take to OT, scrub, go
This
slow.
was the last day we had. Around on Saturday, I pushed it on Saturday and did Saturday. That was only, otherwise I would have pushed it on Tuesday. The child would have lost the chance of doing incision.
Fantastic.
Can we get you? Here. ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ದು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್.
I now invite Dr. Vivek Durai, who is the Deputy Director of Health and Family Welfare. He is here to talk and enlighten us about the KPME Act, especially for our specialty, plastic surgeon. So what are the rules and how do you go about it?
Thank you. ಐದೈದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರಿ. ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಡು ಇಸ್ ಅ ಒನ್ ಡೇ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಇದು. ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ 5 ನಿಮಿಷ 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ಏನು ಮಾಡಲಿ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಬೆಟರ್ ಐ ಬ್ರೀಫ್ ಅಬೌಟ್, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಈಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ 8:15, ಸಮ್ ದೇ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ವಾಚ್ ಸಮ್ ಗುಡ್ ಡಿನ್ನರ್. ನಾವು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ there is a program to the super specialists, especially urologists, plastic surgeons and other vascular surgeons. Now you tell me what we can do, that what amendment we can prefer. ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೀಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ನಾನು ಅದೇನೋ KPME ಅಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಬಿಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್. ಒನ್ ಡೇ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್, 2 ಡೇ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೌ ಟು ಬುಕ್ ಎ ಕೇಸ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಸೀಸ್, ಹೌ ಟು ವಾಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ, ವಾಟ್ ನಾಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ. ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾತ್ರ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೀಡ್ ಆಲ್ ದೋಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಸರ್ವೈವ್ ಹಿಯರ್. And most of the authorities, all authorities are doctors only. ನಮಗೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ಗಳಾಗಿರ್ತೀರ. We want to safeguard you also. And we want to implement the acts also. ಕೆಲವು ಗ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗದೇ ಇರುವಂತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೆಟಪ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬಿಟ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಬಿಗ್ಗೆಸ್ಟ್. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಅವರು ದೀಪಕ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಮೇಟ್. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ 1.5 year ಇಂದ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲಿಂಗ್ ಮೀ ಟು ದಿಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಬರಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೀನೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೆ 7 o'clock ಇಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ಇವತ್ತು ಏನಾದರೂ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಯಾವತ್ತಿಂದ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಸೀಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಆ ಸೀಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್. ವೇರ್ ಯು ಡಿಡ್ ಎ ಜನರಲ್ ಅನಸ್ಥೀಶಿಯಾ ಇನ್ ಎ ಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ನೋ ಒನ್ ಬಾದರ್ಡ್. ಬಿಡು, KPME ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟ್, ಅದ್ರ ಪಾಲಿಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Then I went there, it was running, happily they were running, everybody is sitting. Then immediately ಏನಿದೆ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ there is a general OT where patient is dead, and only one doctor's name is entered. There was no staff nurse, there is no anesthetist, there is no nothing. Maybe everyone was there. In HR, no one was there. In the document, no one was there. ಅವತ್ತಿಂದ ಇವತ್ತಿನವರೆಗೂ ಅವ್ರು ಕರಿತಾನೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವು ಎನ್ಲೈಟನೆಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಈ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಗ್ರೇಸ್ ಓದ್ತೀವಿ, ಪೇಲಿ ಓದ್ತೀವಿ, ಹ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ ಓದ್ತೀವಿ, ನೀವು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಓದಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ಬಟ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ 30 page book or 50 page book. We don't understand that. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶಲ್ವಿಗೂ, ಕುಡ್ಡಿಗೂ, ಕ್ಯಾನಿಗೂ, ಮೇಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕೂ there is a different meaning. ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಅರ್ಥ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಅದು there is a mistake. ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಯಾವುದು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಗೋ. ದಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಯಾವ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಎ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್, ರೈಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿಲಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ದ ರೈಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ, ಯು ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ, ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೇಷನ್, ರೈಟ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಓವರ್ ದೇರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಜನರಲ್ ಅನಸ್ತೇಷಿಯಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ನೀವು ಜನರಲ್ ಅನಸ್ತೇಷಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ವಿತ್ ಬೇಲ್ಸ್ ಅಪೆಂಡಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಇರೋಂಥ ಮೈನ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇರೋದೇ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿನಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಡಿ ಸಿ ಹತ್ರ ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. There are 18 categories in our KPA. Only consultation and consultation with different matters. Training with only consultation. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? only ಏನು ನೀವು ಡ್ರೆಸ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು, ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟಿವ್ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇದು only consultation ಬಿಟ್ರೆ. The next thing, clinic with diagnostic support. ಅದು ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಡಯಾಗ್ನೋಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್? ಡಯಾಗ್ನೋಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನೇನು ಡಯಾಗ್ನೋಸಿಸ್ ನಾವು ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನೈಟ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಡೇ ಟೈಮ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಡಿಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸರಿ ಅಂದರೆ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸ್ ದಿ ಡ್ರಗ್ಸ್ ಓವರ್ ದೇರ್ ವಿತ್ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್. ದೆನ್ ನೀವು ಈ 4ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ನಮಗೆ ಓಟಿ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಓಟಿ ಮಾಡಿದವರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬಡಿ ಬಾದಸ್. ಅದು ಓಟಿ ಆಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆತ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ಎರಡನೇದು HR ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಇರೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಇರಲ್ಲ, HR ಇರಲ್ಲ. there is no facilities for other things. there is no bed, there is nothing. ನೀವು ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಬೆಡ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಬೆಡ್ಸಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಬೇಕು, ನಾವೆಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು? 1A ಅಂತ ಒಂದಿದೆ. 1A ಅಂದ್ರೆ only MBBS ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್. 1B ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದ ಕಾಮನೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್, ಸರ್ಜರಿ, OBGYN, pediatricians can practice. The 2, all specialties can practice. All specialties, ಯಾವ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿ ಇದೆ ಅದಲ್ಲ. The 3, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು, the super specialist. All super specialists will come under this category. ನಿಮ್ಮ OT ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಯೂನಿಕ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಒಂದು 10 ಬೆಡ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊತೀರಾ, 5 ಬೆಡ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊತೀರಾ, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಯುವರ್. ನೀವು ಹಿಂಗೆ OT ನಿಮಗೆ ಬೇಕೇ ಬೇಕು. ಆಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಸರ್ಜನ್ ನೀಡ್ ಒಂದು OT, ಆಸ್ ಮೇಜರ್ OT ಆರ್ ಮೈನರ್ OT, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ OT ಯು ಆರ್ ಪ್ರಿಫರ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಗೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿಗೆ ತಕ್ಕಂತೆ ನೀವು ಒಂದು OT ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ OTಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಶೋ ಬೆಡ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಡ್ಸೇ ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಬೆಡ್ಸೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್, ಮೇಜರ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಬಿಗ್ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇದು ನಿಮಗೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ದರ್ ಇಸ್ level 4 ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೆಡಿಕಲ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್. ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೀಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಇಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮುಗಿಸೋದು ಈ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್, ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಮೀಟಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ there are so many clinics, urologists are doing, plastic surgeons are doing this, vascular surgeons, these are the common people. No, cardiac surgeons ಏನು ಅದೇನು ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವರೇನು ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. These are the, ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಸಾಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಿಲುವಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ನಮಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಸಾಕು, there won't be any complications. The what government says 100 ಜನ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದು ಹೋದ್ರೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಬ್ಬ ನಿರಪರಾಧಿಗಳು ಸಾಯಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ. ಒಂದು ಸಾವು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದಾರಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೋ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಲಕ್ಷಾಂತರ ಜನ ಬದುಕಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟ್ಲ್ ಇವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ICU ನಾವು ಜನರಲ್ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ ಅಂತ. ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಒಂದು ಜನಸೇವೆನೇ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ we are not going to enormously charge. If you go to any hospital admission ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ಗಳು ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು 10,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ 50,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ 60,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸೇವ್ another 40,000 to 50,000 ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಿಲುವಾದರೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ ನಿಲುವುದು ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ, ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ನಿಲುವು ಕಾಯ್ದೆ ಇದು ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ನೀವು ಯು ಗಿವ್ ಎಸ್ ಒಂದು, there is only one chance where you can change your category to level 3 or you do a consultation, do a procedure in some other hospital. ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ಗಳಿಗೂ ಉತ್ತರ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ದೆನ್ ಇಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮಗೆ ಈಗ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ದು ಈಗ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀನಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೇ ಉತ್ತರ, ಏನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಏನಾದ್ರು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ನಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಮೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬೇಕು ಮೈಕ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು. ಲೋಕಲ್ ಅನಸ್ಥೀಶಿಯಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಏನೂ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ನೀವೇನು ಲೋಕಲ್ ಅನಸ್ಥೀಶಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಇವನ್ ಸ್ಪೈನಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ರೀಜನಲ್ ಅಂತ. ಅವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ಅವಾಗ ಬಂದಾಗ ಸಿ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಸೇ, ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಗ್ನಿಟೇರಿಯಸ್. ಈ ಅಶೋಕ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ್ DCM ಆಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ಅವನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು. ನಾನು DCM ಆದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನನಗೆ ಕರೆಯೋದು ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರೆ ಅಂತ. We are respectful in the society because the prefix is there, doctor. ಇಲ್ದವ್ರೆ ಕಾಮನ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಯಾರು ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಸೇ, ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ಏನೋ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಒಂದು 20-30,000 ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಕಟ್ಟೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕಾಂಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಆದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮುಂದೆನೇ ತಲೆ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಿಂತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಒಂದು ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್ ಮುಂದೆ, ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಮುಂದೆ, ಲಾಯರ್ ಮುಂದೆ, ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಮುಂದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ರ ಮುಂದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರ ಮುಂದೆ ನಾವು ಒಂಥರ even though you have treated lakhs together of cases, they will treat you like a criminal. ಹೌದಾ? ಇದನ್ನು ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಗೋ ಒನ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ ಫರ್ದರ್, ಟೇಕ್ ಎ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್. ನಾವೇನು ಕೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ರು ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ನೋ ಒನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಾದರ್. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ಎನಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ನಮಗೆ 10-bedded ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ 5-bedded ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದ್ರೆ nobody will bother. Authorities will ask me only whether throughout 31 district they will ask me only ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಸರ್ ಅಂತ. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಗೈಡ್. ಇರೋ ತನಕ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬಂದವರು ಅದೇ ತರ ಅವರು ಗೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. 1 or 2 months ಅಲ್ಲಿ they will get trained. Better to have a right license, right category at the same time.
ಈಗ suppose we have a clinic and small minor OT for dressing ಅಲ್ಲ, and so ಇವಾಗ small swelling, suturing, local ಮಾಡಿ you do in local. So ಯಾವ category ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ?
ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಡೂ ಆಲ್ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತದೆ. ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು.
So
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ಎನಿ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಆಫ್ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್.
local anesthesia
ಲೋಕಲ್ ಅನಸ್ಥೀಶಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೂಚರಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ OT ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ. ಸೂಚರಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ OT ಬೇಕು, ಮೇಜರ್ OT ಬೇಕು, ಮೈನರ್ OT ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾರ? ಬೇಡ, ಸಾಕು. We don't need major OT, minor OT.
for that polyclinic category is okay.
Category is okay. When you are doing a major procedure, when you are doing with the spinal anesthesia, when you are doing with the general anesthesia, when you are doing with any regional anesthesia, you need a operation theatre.
Minimum will be level 3 hour.
For specialist, the super specialist is a level 3. ನೀವು ಅವಾಗ ಇದನ್ನು ಈಗ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಲೆವೆಲ್ 3 ಇಸ್ ಬಿಗ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ಕಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಯುನಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿಗೆ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅದು ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಪಾಪ ನಿಮ್ಮ 3 ಜನಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಸರ್ಜನ್ ನ್ಯೂರಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈಸಿ ವೇ ಗೋ ಥ್ರೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಇದು ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ 3 ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಚೆಕ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 30 ಪೇಜ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ 30 ಪೇಜ್ ನೀವು ಫುಲ್ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಫುಲ್ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನ ಈಗ ಕಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಯೂನಿಲ್ಯಾಟ್ರಲ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಈಗ ಬೈಲ್ಯಾಟ್ರಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಯುನಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನೇ ತಲೆಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ದು ಏನ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಅಂತ ವಿಸಿಟೆಡ್ ಆ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಡೀಪಾಗಿ ನೋಡಿದೀನಿ. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಎನಫ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀನಿ.
Next comes is
Surgical specialty, medical specialty, entirely different.
Yes, exactly correct.
So surgical specialty.
ಅವರು ಕ್ಲಿನಿಕಲ್ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕಲ್ ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. DM ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದು ಏನು ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ.
ಬಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕಲ್ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಮೆಡಿಕಲ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿ ಸರ್ಜಿಕಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದು ಅವಾಗ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ನಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವೇರ್ ದ
So if you take a license of a polyclinic, your procedure is limited to minor procedures. You can't do any major procedures. Minor procedure ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ಲೋಕಲ್ ಅನೆಸ್ಥೆಸಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿ, ರೀಜನಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನೀವು ರೀಜನಲ್ ಹೋದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಂದು ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಬದಿರಾಜ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಮೇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ವೆಲ್ ನೋನ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕಲ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಏನೋ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಐ ಕುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡೂ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್. ನಾನು ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್ ಒಂದೇ ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನಮ್ದೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಮೇಟ್ ನನ್ನ ಮನೆ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತು, ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಸೇ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗಕ್ಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಆ ರೀತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾ ಹೇಳೋದು ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾಗ ಮೇಜರ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್, ಬೆಟರ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಓವರ್ ದೇರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್. ನಿಮ್ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮ್ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನದಂಗೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಸೇವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅವನಿಗೆ, ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಕಡೆಗೆ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಬರೋಂಥದ್ದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ಸೇ ಆದ್ರು. ಬಟ್ ಒಂದ್ ಡೆತ್ ಆದಾಗ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ವಿಕಾಂಟ್ ಅವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. ಈಗ BCPNT ಒಂದು 4-5 ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ವಿ ಆರ್ ವೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ಸ್. ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತಾಕ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅವನ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವಿವೇಕದವರಿಗೆ ಎಂತದೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ವಿವೇಕದವರ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನ್ನೋದಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾನು ಅಹಂ ಸುಪ್ಪಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಕಿತ್ತಾಕ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಈಗ ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಡಿಟರ್ಮಿನೇಷನ್, ಅದು ಬೇಡ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಎಂಟಿಟಿ.
ಸರ್ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಈಗ
ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.
ಲೆವೆಲ್ 3 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ ನಮಗೆ ಅದು ಸೀಮಿತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಡೂ GA ಕೇಸಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಈಸ್ ಇಟ್ ನೆಸಸರಿ ಫಾರ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಗೋಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಡ್, ಸೊ ಕಂಪಲ್ಸರಿ ಐದರ್ HDU ಇಲ್ಲ ICU ಇರಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್?
ಅದೇ ನೀವು ಯೂಸಲಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ 3 ಹೋದಾಗ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಬ್ಲೂ ಮೂನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಎ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕೇಸ್ ಇದಾಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವ ನಿಮ್ದು ರಿಕವರಿ ರೂಮ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ರಿಕವರಿ ರೂಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸಫಿಸ್ಟಿಕೇಟೆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ವಿತ್ ಆಲ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ICU ನಿಮಗಂತೂ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಯೂಸಲಿ ಅವತ್ತು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಸಂಜೆ ಕಳಿಸುವಂತದ್ದು
ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವಾಗಾದ್ರೂ
ಸ್ಟೆಬಿಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾರ ನೀವು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ಆ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೆಬಿಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋ ತನಕ ನಿಮಗೆ ಬೇಕು. ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ನ ಸ್ಟೆಬಿಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ಲೇಬೇಕು. ಹೌದು ತಾನೆ? ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದೇ ತರ ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ.
ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ವೆಂಟಿಲೇಟರ್
ಈವನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಬೆಟ್ನಜಾರ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕೊಲಾಪ್ಸ್. ಅಯಾಸಿನ್, ಡೆಕ್ಸಾಮೆಥಾಸೋನಿಕ್ ಕೊಲಾಪ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿದೆ. ವಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ. ಆ ಥರ ಆದಾಗ ವಿ ಗೆಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾನಿಕ್, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಲಿ ಅಂತ. ಏನಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಇದೆ, ನಾವೇನೋ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ, ಸಮ್ ರೆಸ್ಕ್ಯೂ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್. ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್, ನೀವು ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಟು ದಿ ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್, ಟು ದಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್, ಟು ದಿ ಪೊಲೀಸ್, ಟು ದಿ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ಸ್, ಟು ದಿ ಲಾಯರ್ಸ್, ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಹೋಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ.
So
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು
stabilize ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ
ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಟು ಮೈ ಹೈಯರ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪಂಡ್ ಅಂತ. ನೀವು ಯಾರು ನೀವೇ ಹೈಯರ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ, ಹೈಯೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ, ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ? ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ನೀನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಬಲ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ, ಸ್ಟೆಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ, ಅದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋ ತನಕ ಯಾರು ಸರ್? Anybody else? ಕೇಳಿ, ಏನಿದ್ರು ಕೇಳಿ, ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಟು ವರಿ.
ಇದು ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ವಿತ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಲೆವೆಲ್ 3 ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಾಗ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್?
ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಓಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡಿ.
ಸೊ ಓಟಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಇದೆ.
ಓಟಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಇದೆ. ರಿಕವರಿ ಬೆಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಒಂದು ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಶೋ ಸಮ್ ಬೆಡ್ಸ್.
ಬಟ್ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್
ನಮಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಪಾಲಿಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಈಗಿನ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ 3 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 30-40 ಪೇಜಸ್ ಚೆಕ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮಗಾಗಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡು. ಅದು ಈಗಿರೋ ಇದ್ರ ಚೆಕ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ. ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ 100 ಬೆಡ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಯು ನೀಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಮಚ್ ನಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಇಷ್ಟು ಮೈನರ್ ಓಟಿ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಮೇಜರ್ ಓಟಿ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಇದಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎನಿ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಸೆಟಪ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಇದು. ಯೂನಿಲಾಟ್ರಲ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿಗೆ, ಯೂನಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು.
Sir, is there an option to upgrade from polyclinic to
No upgradation.
to cancel?
You have to ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ನಿಮ್ದು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಅದೇ ಇರಲಿ. ಅದು ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್. Most probably this is the shortest to talk about KPMG. Usually ನಮಗೆ ಡಿಸಿಗಳಿಗೆ, DHOಗಳಿಗೆ, THOಗಳಿಗೆ ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ we should catch the criminals, how we should catch this ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ 9 o'clock ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಸಮಯ 5:30, 6 o'clock ಮುಗಿಯುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ಆಮ್ ವೆರಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ ಟು ಸಿ so many plastic surgeons.
It's more of how to protect the innocents.
Penalty is any unregistered clinic is 3 years jail and 1 lakh fine. Any unregistered. If anybody is without a registration, ilde ಹೋದ್ರೆ please do registration immediately. ಕೆಲವರು ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಇದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಬಂದಾಗ ಯಾರು ಕೈ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ. ಲಾ ಅಂತ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಲಾನ ಫಾಲೋ ದ ಲಾ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. 3 years ಜೈಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಏನೇ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಸಸ್ ಇಂದ ಇದ್ದಾಗ 50,000 to 1 lakh fine ಇದೆ. ಅದು ಆಧಾರ ತಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. 3 years ಜೈಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫೈಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಒಂದಿನ ಜೈಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗೋದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಬಿಗ್ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಸಲ್ಟ್. ನಮಗಿಂತ ಏನು ಓದಿರೋರಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೈಯರ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್, ಡಿಸಿನೋ ಇವರು ಹಾಗೆ ಕೂತಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರ ಮುಂದೆ ತರ ತಕ್ಷಣಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನೇ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಫರ್. ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಅಥೆಂಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿರಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನ್ನ ಉದ್ದೇಶ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಐ ನೋ ಯುವರ್ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಹೆಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ KGMI 10,000 ಜನ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನೇ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಟೀಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಬೇಗ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ KGMI ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್. ಯಾರ ಮುಂದೆನೂ ತಲೆ ತಗ್ಸುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಒಂದು KPMG ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ವಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು. ತಪ್ಪು ಎರಡನೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಐ ಸೇ ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡೀಲಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಫೈಲ್, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಡೀಲಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬಾಡಿ. ಹೌದೇ ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್. ಡೈಕ್ಲೋಸಿಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಸತ್ತವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲಿನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, 50ನೇ ಡೋಸು 60ನೇ ಡೋಸ್ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲಿನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ, ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಗೂ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಇದಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಡೀಲಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬಾಡಿ. ವಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಹೌ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್. ಯಾವಾಗ ಕೊಲೆಸ್ಟ್ರಾಲ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಸರಿಪಡಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ನಿಂತರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮಿಂದನೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಮೇಜರ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡದೇ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ
ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಲೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ.
KPMA ಬ್ಲೂ ಮತ್ತು ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇಷ್ಟೇ, ಫೇಕ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ನ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಟು ನಮ್ಮವ್ರನ್ನ ಎನ್ಕರೇಜ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಲೋಪತಿನ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲೋಪತಿಗಾಗಿ ಒಂದು, ಆಯುಷ್ಗಾಗಿ ಒಂದು, ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕೂ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಕಲರ್ ಕೊಡೋಣ ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಬೇಡ. ಅಲೋಪತಿ ಇಸ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಕಲರ್ ಕೊಡೋಣ, ಆಯುಷ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಒಂದು ಕಲರ್ ಕೊಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಕಲರ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ IMA ಇಂದ ಅಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಬಂತು, 7:3 ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಯ್ತು ಅಂತ. ಅದನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಈಗ 5 × 2.5 ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇದು ಈಗ ದೀಪಕ್ ಅದೇ ಕೇಳ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ಗಳ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇರೋಲ್ಲ, ಇದೊಂದೇ ಬೋರ್ಡಿನ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರಿನ ಇದು ಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್ ಆರ್ ಯುವರ್ ದ ಓನರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ಆ ಓನರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ಗೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. IMA ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ. ದ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈಂಗ್ ದ ಫೇಕ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್, ಎನ್ಕರೇಜಿಂಗ್ ದಿ qualified doctors. They are qualified. We should encourage for that. And we should do that. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೇನು ಕಲರ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜಿಂಗ್ಜಾನ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರ ಬದಲು ಒಂದು ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ we can easily identify. ಮತ್ತೆ anything, I will give my number. You have so many doubts. Every time you can't ask Deepak, you can clarify it ಅಂತ. So 944 ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಬೇಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ 944 99 999 8.
ಒಂದು
944 99 999 8. 8-9. ಯಾರು ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾನಿಂಗ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಯೂಸಲಿ ಯಾರು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಒಬ್ಬಟ್ಟು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ಅಫಿಡವಿಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್, ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿ ANC. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಎನಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಾಲಿಟಿ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದ್ದರೆ
ICG will come under this?
no,
ICG scan ಅಂತ will it come under this? Ultrasound scan.
Ultrasound. Yeah, any scanning. If you are doing CT, if you are doing this, that, MRI, any scanning, give after that.
ಇದು ಈಗ ಸ್ಪಾ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿ ಸಲೂನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನೀವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ, ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಲವು ಕಾಯ್ದೆಗಳು ನಿಯಮಗಳು?
ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಕೊಡಿ. ಏನು
ಸ್ಪಾ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿ ಸಲೂನ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಏನು ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್?
ಈಗ ಬೋಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಫೇರ್ನೆಸ್ IV ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್.
ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ಕೊಡಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ಕೊಡಿ, ಇಂಥ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಟೀಮ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್, trained in such a way that they want to book case. They are eagerly waiting. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ಸ್ ಕಡೆ ನೀವೇ ಡೈವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡೋದೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ಸ್ ನೀವೇ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀರ, why should I bear the cat ಅಂತ. So we are bearing the cat over week get it. ನೀವೇ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡಿ, ಇಂಥವ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರನ್ನ ಬೇಡ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ವಿ ನೆವರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ದ ನೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನಿ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಕೊಡಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ ನೀವೇ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರನ್ನ ರಹಸ್ಯವಾಗಿಡಲ್ಲ.
Dermatology clinics which use lasers or other equipments of this
ಅವರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಏರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅದು ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕ್ಲಿನಿಕ್ ಮತ್ತೆಲ್ಲನೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಏರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Laser also is
invisible.
your salons, beauty clinics, they are using laser, hair removal laser. Is it legally allowed?
ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನು ರೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗೈಡ್ ದಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ. ನೋಬಡಿ ರೈಸಸ್ ಅಂದಾಗ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. Somebody should rise. We can't go to each and every center. There are 35 KPME establishments, legal establishments are there. Another 35,000 or 40,000 illegal establishments. Bengaluru ಒಂದರಲ್ಲೇ ಒಂದು 10,000 illegal establishments ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಇದೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಥ ಕಡೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ನಿಮ್ದೇ ಅವ್ರ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೂಪರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ದವರು MBBS and specialist ಗಳು. They should rise. We can't go to each state and find it out with 11 teams in the Bengal. There are 10,000 andaga. Everyone should join. IMI should join. All associations should join. Then only we can catch easily the culprits or unqualified persons or fake persons.
How easy is it on renewal online?
Now it is deemed there.
Okay.
Every registration 90 days ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ it's deemed.
Deemed. Okay.
If it is not, if we are not rejecting your application within 90 days, it's a deemed renewal or deemed registration.
Do we get any information like that?
We usually mail you
Mail.
when we are visiting you. ನೀವೊಂದು ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ನಮಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ within some 45 days, 50 days ಅಲ್ಲಿ give a mail to you. ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಅಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಏನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಮೇಲ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ 48 hours before. ನಾವು ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕೂ ಬರಲ್ಲ. I'm coming tomorrow ಅಂತ I can't say. At least I need 48 hours to intimate you. ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ ರಿನಿವಲ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿರಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮಗೆ 90 days ಇಂದಾನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ರಿನಿವಲ್ಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ 100 days ಇಂದ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ರಿನಿವಲ್ಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ 3 months ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಬಟ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಮ್ ರಿನಿವಲ್ಗೆ ಬಂದಿರಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಕೆಲವು NABH ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಕೀಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವರು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದರ್ ಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ದೇ ವೋಂಟ್ ಕಮ್. ಯಾವಾಗಾದ್ರೂ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆದಾಗ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ತರ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆದಾಗ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್. ಸರ್ ನಮ್ದಿದೆ, ಅಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ವರ್ಷನೂ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅದು ಏನೂ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇವನ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಯು ಬಟ್ ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಯು. ಈ ಥರ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ನಾ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಹೇಳೋದೊಂದು ಇಷ್ಟೇ, ಗೋವಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ ಎಲ್ರೂ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಈಗ ನಾ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸಂಬಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಯಾರೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಯ್ತು, ನಾನು ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ರು ರೆಸ್ಕ್ಯೂರ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗಲ್, ಯುವರ್ ಎಂಟಿಟೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗಲ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗಲ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ನೊಬ್ಬರಿಗಿದೆ.
What is the status of trade license? There is a bit of confusion.
ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್. ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು 1 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾವು 5 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. 5 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ 2020 ಅದನ್ನು ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿಗೆ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸರಿ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರೋ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೈಲ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡೋದು, ಡೋಂಟ್ ರಿಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ದ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್. ನಮಗೆ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಬಂತು ಅಂದಾಗ ರೆವಿನ್ಯೂ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಬಂತು. ಈಗ ರೆವಿನ್ಯೂ ಜನರೇಷನ್ KPME ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಅಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಲೀಗಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು KPME ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫೈಡ್ ಅನ್ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫೈಡ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರನ್ನು ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ KPME. ಸೊ ವಿ ರಿಮೂವ್ಡ್ ಸಮ್ವೇರ್ 4 years ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. 2020 ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ KPME ಇಂದ ರಿಮೂವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. BBMP ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ನ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗಿಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ KPME ಕೊಡಂಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಡಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಎವ್ರಿ ಇಯರ್ ಬಂದು ಅವ್ರು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು.
So we'll have
We are not the collectors of trade.
But we'll have to do trade license.
You have to do trade license with the BBMP, not with KPME. We have no issue. ನಮಗೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿನೇ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇ ಕೇಳಿ ಬರ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ಗಾಗಿ 2-3 ತಿಂಗಳು ಲೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಅದನ್ನ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇದಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಮೂಲ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ತೆಗೆಯಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಆಫ್ KPME.
Shops and establishment acts are not so.
Shops and establishment act ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Which
Labor department.
ಲೇಬರ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಮುನ್ಸಿಪಾಲಿಟಿ ಅವರು ಬಂದು ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಮುನ್ಸಿಪಾಲಿಟಿ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾನಿದು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ನನಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಯಾರು ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ನನಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇದ್ರ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ನೋಬಡಿ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಿಸ್. ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದೆಯಾ ನಮಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್? ಕೀರ್ತಿ, ಶಾಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದೆಯಾ? ಸ್ಟೇಟಿಗೆ ನಾಟ್ ಯಾವುದು ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ನಮಗೆ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಏನೈತೆ?
There are many questions, but I think as of now we can't.
ಅಲ್ಲ
So many things.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ರು ಇದು KPME ಅನ್ನೋದು ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಇಷ್ಟನೇ. ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಕಡಲೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಏನು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಫುಲ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ವಿಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಿಪ್ ಯು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಈಗಲೇ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಬಿಟ್ರೆ something. With this, there is no questions. I know you, there will be a lot of questions. That's why I gave my number. And connector is here, your secretary. On phone ತೆಗಿಲೇಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಅಪ್ಪ ಅರ್ಧ ಗಂಟೆ ಯಾರು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀನಿ, ನಾನು ಟೇಬಲ್ ಟು ರಿಸೀವ್ ಇಷ್ಟ. ಆ ಥರ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಏನೇ ಇದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಿಮ್ ಝೂಮ್ ಒಂದು ಇದು ನಾನು ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ಗೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ಗಳು ರೈಸ್ ಆದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಧ ಗಂಟೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸೇರಿಸಿರು, ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಗ್ರೂಪಿಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೂ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ದೆನ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಬಿ ಇನ್ ಎನಿ ಅದರ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಗಳು ಇರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಧ ಗಂಟೆ ಒಂದು ಗಂಟೆ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್. ಸೊ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಆಲ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕಮ್ ಔಟ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay, for taking your time out and explaining us about the KPME. I think there is some clarity, although there will be a lot of doubt. So the basic thing, what he has told is now, all plastic surgeons should register under level 3 if they are operating, they are OT. That's the basic thing, nothing below that. And if you are just consulting, then the policy would suffice with minor local surgeries. Thank you, Vivek. I would request Dr. Anand to honor the guest. So we're going green. So opposite of plastic, what we have. Thank you. So we'll get on with our next talk. Thank you, Dr. Vivek. Coming back to the presentation, presenting a bilateral foot ankle crushing, how we restore the function. Basically, this paper is how we can effectively work on a difficult bilateral foot injury to make person back to the work as early as possible. On 30th of April, this lady, 39-year-old lady, pillion raider, hit by a truck and run over on both ankle and foot. Came to our hospital next day. She had bilateral ankle foot crushed deglutial injury, right lateral tibial condyle intra-articular fracture, and right tibialis sharp fracture. Without she had
left foot she had deglowing of entire lower third of the leg and ankle, and exposed front of the ankle and the lateral aspect of the foot ankle joint, and also she had heel pad avulsion. Right also heel pad avulsion, exposed dorsum of the foot, and with the fracture of the second toe and last second, and webs burst in both feet. This on the left foot, this on the right. So we had a challenge. Day one only we went and did an initial debridement and planning how to cover. And after debridement, this is just putting the skin back. We know that some skin definitely will go. There are definite indication of flap in both foot. Left we have exposed front of the ankle, tibialis anterior AHL, lateral ankle joint exposed, and right side exposed extensor tendons of the dorsum. But bilateral heel pad also all laterally based. Query, we don't know unless 3 to 4 days whether the feet pad will survive or not. No. These are the things which we had an issue. So on the 4th day we went ahead because we are sure about the right foot because the deglowing was less. So we went ahead and did a left gracilis flap to cover the exposed tendons. And the second toe extensor tendon was, there is a segmental loss. We used the distal end of the gracilis there, that is the loss. The picture may not show well, but there is a segmental loss, extensor tendon, exposed joint, fracture of the proximal base of the proximal phalanx. We use the distal end of the gracilis tendon and use the vascularis tendon graft to connect to the bridge in the extensor tendon there. And the flap survived well, and we went ahead on the 6th day for the left foot. We did the right side gracilis to cover the proximal foot, and also the ankle joint, there is a lateral ankle exposed, but fortunately both heel pads were survived and both flaps survived. It's on the 10th day we had both flaps surviving well, and we went into skin grafting. This is on 13th day, 14th day, and graft settled very well, and both flaps survived and both heel pads survived. There is a wonderful part of that. And she had humerus fracture, post fixation. There was radial nerve paralysis that gave one of the deformity for her to use on a stretcher and to mobilize. She had painful right knee because of the right tibial condyle fracture, and she had a left ankle, painful ankle. This is the one which at discharge, we could discharge her in about 23 days, and she came on follow-up. The wounds were healing well, almost small raw areas. Coming back to this, under plastic surgery she was there for 23 days and she was on OPD for about nearly 3 weeks, but we pushed her because she had to go back to work. So we pushed her to get a good rehabilitation because the ankle was stiff. She was not able to move, a lot of pain, and with prompting they admitted once again under PMR for nearly a month, and aggressive inpatient rehabilitation was done. The last. So, video is not loading. She could go back. get her mobilized. I am not able to open the video short of time, but in about 2 months she could walk. Now she's walking. Initially she was walking with the support, knee support, aggressive mobilization. Now she came 3 days back. She's walking nicely, and she's a bank employee. She could go back to work in about a month's time. So this is just with bilateral Grissel's flap, bilateral ankle crush injury, a lady with sometimes the chances of deciding on a flap, which area to flap, or just do get the granulation come and grab. There are very indeterminate areas. To go ahead and quickly plan a flap on both ankles, we shortened her stay, we shortened her healing time, and that's why she could go back to healing phase and rehabilitation. Thank you.
While you integra for both cases and follow the graph, there are very good cases that also heal has survived. Like a little bit of tendons which were exposed to which definitely cost would have been also more or less same or less than this.
Thing was one is the area involved. The left ankle, the bone, large area of bone exposed. The tibialis anterior tendon, thick tendon, AHL tendon, everything was exposed. And I was not confident of putting it. We end of it, we have to wait for 3 weeks. Then we have to go about grafting. So we thought of doing it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Nida from Aster Whitefield in the plastic surgery department, and I'm here to talk about complex salvage head and neck reconstructions. More often than not, the head and neck reconstructions that we have to do are a lot of patients that come with a history of flap failure. There's a lot of chance of wound dehiscence, infection, recurrence. So it's always a very complicated situation to deal with these sort of patients. The main challenges that we face are they would have had multiple surgeries because of a requirement of multiple reconstructions. There will be lack of adequate local tissue, lack of a recipient vessel and a donor site. These patients would have undergone chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and because of requirement of either an RT feed or a PEG feed or an FJ feed, the patient would have poor nutrition as well. Now I'd like to discuss a few cases that we have done over the last few months. First case is a 38-year-old male who came with a left medial canthus sebaceous cell carcinoma, for which he underwent a wide local excision and a glabellar flap in November of 15, followed by chemotherapy, post which he again developed a recurrence in the medial rectus and the globe, for which he underwent a superior lateral orbitotomy, a total excision of the tumor, and an ELD flap cover, which was done in June of 19. This is the patient post the first surgery. The arrow mark shows the glabellar flap that was done for this patient. This is the pre-operative marking. You can see how much the tumor has pushed the globe laterally. Post-excision, this is the defect that we were left with. And this is the reconstruction that we have done with the AFT. The patient was doing well, but again after a few months developed a recurrence as shown by the black arrow, for which he underwent a maxillectomy, an ethmoidectomy, left and right selective neck dissection, and a microvascular free fibula flap in July of 23. Now the patient was doing well, but again he developed a recurrence. At this point, the relatives were not very keen on any sort of intervention, but it reached a point where the lesion was so big that the patient required multiple dressings and was actually quite foul smelling. His own family could not stay in his own house, and this is how he presented to us in Jan of this year. It's a large fungating lesion with a huge raw area, multiple bleeding surfaces. It was quite foul smelling. It required a daily dressing, and because of which he was isolated by his own family. Now our aim of the treatment was to reduce the raw area and hence the foul smell as much as possible, to stop the blood loss, make him a little bit more socially acceptable, and improve the quality of the rest of his life. Now the treatment plan was to do a right ethmoidectomy, removal of the right medial or vital wall, an ACF-based carpeting, revision of the revision wide local excision, and a functional neck dissection. After all of this, this is the defect that we were left with. Now, because of the sheer size of the defect, our plan was to do a vertical rectus abdominis flap along with the transverse rectus abdominis flap. This is the pre-operative marking, and this is the flap after harvesting. The donor site could be closed primarily, and an interflap anastomosis was done end to side, and the main pedicle was anastomosed to the superior thyroid artery and the IJV. Post the flap inset, this is how the patient looked. For better orientation, the white arrow shows where the umbilicus is supposed to be, and the ECG lead shows us where the Doppler signals we were getting for monitoring. The patient was shifted to the ICU, was doing well. The flap was healthy till POD4, but sadly on POD4 the flap appeared dusky with very poor Doppler signal and was immediately taken up for re-exploration. There was a thrombus noted along the arterial anastomosis, for which we had to redo the arterial pedicle along with the vein graft, and resuturing was done. The patient was again shifted back to the ICU. Flap had good Doppler signal, but over the course of the rest few days, it was not bleeding on prick and was not warm on touch and slowly started turning very dusky. And on POD9, he underwent flap takedown and debridement. This is the flap showing a very thick black eschar, and it had to be taken down. This is the flap being removed, and you can see the amount of slough and necrotic tissue that is built up under the flap. But again, we were left with the same problem, the same big defect. So after multiple debridements and a lot of antibiotics, he underwent debridement and a latissimus dorsi flap cover. This is the large LD flap that we have taken. You can see that inferiorly it has also crossed the midline. And this is the flap inset that we have done. The patient was actually doing a lot better after this procedure. He was shifted out of the ICU. He was doing well. The flap actually settled very, very well. but because of the aggressiveness of the disease, he again developed new lesions. As shown by the white arrow, that is the new lesion that had developed. At this point, the relatives were quite exhausted mentally, emotionally, and financially, and decided to not escalate any more treatment. The patient sadly passed away in June of this year. A few other cases that we have done in our hospital is a 38-year-old male who had carcinoma buccal mucosa, for which he underwent left wide local excision along with a left hemimandibulectomy and the radial forearm free flap cover. He underwent, sadly the flap could not survive and underwent a debridement and a PMMC flap cover for the same. Again, the flap did not sit well. There was a little bit of wound adhesions, for which he underwent flap debridement and nacelle thickness graft in October 23, and a deltopectoral flap inset was done in November of 23. The patient came to us in the beginning of this year with wound adhesions and an orocutaneous fistula. Now, the plan for this patient was to do flipping of the DP flap to form the inner oral mucosa and a latissimus dorsi flap cover for the external skin cover. This is the patient immediate post-op, and this is the patient after 1 month of post-op. The patient is doing well. He's planned for a fibular flap when he's financially much better. The third case is a 49-year-old male, again carcinoma buccal mucosa. He underwent a segmental mandibulectomy and a fibular free flap in April of 2021. He sadly developed a recurrence, for which he required an infrastructural maxillectomy and a radial forearm free flap cover. The patient again developed a recurrence, and he came back to us in March of this year with a recurrence, for which he underwent left composite resection, left hemimandibulectomy, and a fibular free flap was done. Now, because of the multiple free flaps that were done previously for this patient, there was a gross lack of recipient site vessels. And for our anastomosis, we had to anastomose to the transverse cervical artery. This is the patient post the flap. He is planned for a commissurotomy once the flap settles down. Our fourth case is a 34-year-old male from East Africa, a sclerosing with sclerosing epithelioid fibrosarcoma in the right parotid region. He had had multiple surgeries before, but there was no documentation of the same. This is how he presented to us, with a large lesion on the right side, along with an intraoral lesion as well. This is the pre-operative X-ray of the patient. He was planned for a radical right parotidectomy, right hemimandibulectomy, removal of all those plates, right infratemporal fossa clearance, a sole nerve graft, and a fibular free flap. This is the X-ray post-operatively, and this is the patient after 1 month of follow-up. He has a slight depression, for which we're planning on doing a fat fill later on, once the radiotherapy and everything is done. Now, the take-home message of this presentation was that most of the flaps that we do are not always for curative intent. It's just so that the patient has a better quality of life, very basic requirements that they have, that they can just eat normal food, be in their own home, be a little bit more socially acceptable. And because of the multiple surgeries that are done for these patients, we're always forced to think outside the box. Thank you.
Two cases you have showed rapid Two cases you showed all the flaps.
Dr. Meera from the Department of Plastic Surgery, Aster Whitefield Hospital. So I'll be presenting about MSAP flap as an alternative to radial artery forearm flap and ALD flap in case of head and neck reconstruction. So just a brief introduction about the MSAP flap. The MSAP is based on...
Don't touch anything. Yeah, okay. See?
So a brief introduction about the MSAP flap. The medial sural artery flap is the, as you see the anatomy, the medial sural artery arises from the popliteal artery in the leg, in the popliteal crease, and it runs along the medial head of the gastrocnemius muscle. So the artery has got a longitudinal path and it divides finally into the medial and the lateral branch. And it has got an anatomical variation. So Dusseldorf has classified it, the intramuscular branching, into mainly 4 types. Type 1, when there is a single branch, seen in 31% of the patients. And type 2A, that is a dual branching pattern with a high takeoff point that is above the tibial plateau, seen in 35% of the population. And type 2B, that is again a dual branching pattern with a low takeoff point that is below the tibial plateau, seen in 24% of the population. And type 3, that is it will have 3 or more branches, seen in 10% of the population. So the surface marking of the perforators are very important when we are harvesting the MSAP flap because of the anatomical variation. So the surface marking is a midpoint between the popliteal crease. If you draw a line from there to the medial malleolus, in the first 8 centimeters, within the radius of that 8 centimeters, you are supposed to find the first perforator. And the second perforator will be around 12 centimeters from the midline of the popliteal crease along this line. And it has been recorded that we will not get a perforator less than 6 centimeters or more than 18 centimeters below this line. So this is very important while we are harvesting the MSAP flap. And the number of perforator usually varies between 1 to 5, and the caliber of the medial sural artery is said to be around 1 to 3 mm, and the pedicle length will approximately get a pedicle length of 8 to 16 centimeters. And the venous supply is by the perforator vena commitans, which will drain into the intramuscular deep vena commitans. So how to harvest the MSAP flap? As I said, the first and foremost important point is the surface marking of the perforator. So as you can see in the first figure, from the midpoint of the popliteal crease to the medial malleolus, we have to draw a line, and about 8 centimeters we will get the first perforator. So when the perforators are marked, we can reconfirm the position with the help of the Doppler, and after that we can design the adequate skin paddle. This is the dissection which we have started. We have to identify the medial sural artery and also the perforators into the skin paddle. So once we have identified the medial sural artery, we can dissect the entire course, the intramuscular course of the pedicle, and along with the perforators. So as you can see, we have got a relatively thin flap with the perforator and an adequate lengthy pedicle. And before dividing the pedicle, we will always do a ICG scan to see the perforation of the flap. So this is a photo of after finally ligating the pedicle. As you can see, it is relatively a thin flap with an adequate pedicle length. And this is the anastomosis neck area, where the sural artery was anastomosed to the common facial artery and the veins to the tributaries of the IJV. You can see that the calibers are almost the same. And this is the flap inset. So you can see that it is not a very bulky flap, and this is a poster pic. After 1 week, it is sitting well. It has got the flap is sitting well in the mouth. So this was another case, a patch pharyngoplasty which was done for a laryngectomy case. So the first one was the defect. This is the pharyngeal defect which we were left with, for which we harvested an MSAT flap. As you can see, again we have done an inset, and this is a relatively thin and pliable flap, and we were able to, this one, so basically the pedicle length was long, so we had to anastomose it to the opposite side. It's the perforatus area and the pedicle, which we have anastomosed to the opposite side, and this is the final picture after the neck closure. This is a brief comparison about the three main flaps which we use in head and neck reconstruction. So regarding the bulk of the flap, radial artery is definitely, the flap will be thin, whereas ALT will usually go in for a thicker, bulky flap. The advantages of MSAT is that we can make it into a thin flap, as well as if we need a little more bulk, we can add the muscle along with the pedicle. And the pedicle length, compared to MSAT, radial artery and ALT will have slightly more advantage there. Coming to the donor side, the radial artery definitely have a disadvantages here, because the radial artery flap, the donor side will be exposed, it is very evident, and we usually require a skin graft to cover it. So this will lead on to an unappealing aesthetic later on, whereas ALT is definitely a hidden donor site, but MSAT usually we can say that we can close it primarily up to about 3 centimeters to 4 centimeter width, and it is relatively a hidden site. The possibility of nerve injury is there with radial artery as well as ALT, whereas it is not there with the MSAT flap. The disadvantage with MSAT is that the learning curve is reported to be more when compared to the other two flaps. This was a journal published in the European Journal of Plastic Surgery, where they have compared all the three flaps, and they have found that MSAT can be taken up as a flap of choice for floor of mouth and tongue reconstructions. This is another paper published in the Archive of Plastic Surgery, where they have done an extensive study of the three flaps, and they have come to a conclusion that MSAT can be regarded as the workhouse of head and neck reconstruction. So going through a few cases which we have recently done in Astor Whitefield in our hospital. This is a 35-year-old male. He had come with a ulceroproliferative lesion on the right lateral border of the tongue, and he underwent a right partial prosectomy, and we reconstructed with the MSAT, which was harvested from the left leg, and the sural artery, middle sural artery, we were able to anastomose to the superior thyroid artery, and the veins, we had done two veins, one to the common facial artery and one to the tributary of IJV. And for him, we were able to close the donor side primarily. This was the pre-op picture. This was a lesion which he was having. So, as I said, we were able to mark 3 perforators pre-operatively with the help of Doppler, and this is the dissection which we had done. So this is the skin flap which we had harvested. You can see that it is a relatively thin flap, and we were able to get 2 good perforators and adequate length of the pedicle. It's the final inset of the patient of the flap. And this is 2 weeks after the surgery. So you can see that it is looking exactly similar to the naked tongue. And this is 1 month after the surgery. This is the donor side. So he had a small row area on one end, but it is also healing properly now. This is the second case which we had done a 42-year-old male with a ulceroproliferative lesion on the right lateral tongue, and he underwent an extended right grossectomy. And we were able to reconstruct with MSAP, harvested from the left leg, and the artery was anastomosed to the common facial artery, and we did 2 veins, one to the IJV tributaries. For him, we had to put in a small skin graft for the closure of the donor site. This is the post-op picture of the patient, and if you see, this is the entire flap, and this is the native tongue, and this is the skin graft which he had to take for the coverage of the donor area. So this is a small video. Sorry, I'm not able to play it here. Sorry again. So this is the third case which we had done. A 58-year-old female who had again CA tongue on the left lateral border. She underwent a left partial vasectomy with a reconstruction with the MSAP. We harvested the flap from the left leg, and the artery was anastomosed to the common facial artery and the vein to a IJV tributary and a facial vein. For her also, we were able to close the primary donor site primarily without any skin graft. So this is the anastomosis, neck anastomosis, and the flap inset, and the donor site which was closed primarily. This is a post-op picture. If you can see the left lower one, you can see the flap inset. Flap sitting well in the and this is her donor area. Even though she developed a slight SR on one end, it is also healing well. So basically the advantages of our MSAP is that the one thing is it can be harvested with the patient in any position, supine, lateral decubitus or prone decubitus, lateral position or prone decubitus. And when the head and neck surgeon is doing the surgery on one end, we can harvest the flap along with them on the other end. So there will be no space constraint within the OT. And we get a fairly adequate vascular pedicle, and the flap it's relatively thin flap which is ideal for head and neck. And the donor site is mostly we can close it primarily up to a width of about 3 cm, and it is relatively a hidden site when compared to a radial artery forearm flap. And numerous chimeric flap options are there in case of MSAP, which is suitable for a 3D insetting. And also we can synchronously harvest other composite tissue in the adjacent region, like the greater or lesser saphenous vein. But the lateral sural artery flap has got a more advantage when compared to the medial sural artery flap in this case. So therefore MSAP can be taken as a legitimate free flap option for oral cavity reconstruction. It also comes with few disadvantages because the anatomical variation which I had said in the beginning. So in certain amount of people, the perforators will be absent, and also if you see the caliber of the perforators, it might be generally smaller when compared to the other flaps, and also the corkscrew subfacial perforator part might necessitate an alteration in the final flap design. And even though it is a hidden scar, like I have shown in the picture, females might not feel like it is aesthetically pleasing, especially if we have to keep a skin graft. So the conclusion is that MSAT can be considered as the new workhorse, as an alternative to radial artery forearm or the ALT or the groin flap in a head and neck reconstruction. Mainly we will get an adequate pedicle length and a relatively thin flap and a hidden donor side. But the inconsistency of the vascular anatomy must be taken into consideration while we are choosing an MSAT flap. Thank you.
With this, we come to the end of our today's bi-monthly meet. I thank the Astra Group of hospitals for hosting this meet. I also would like to thank the sponsors, Unity Pharma and Malredo. I would also like to add special thanks to Dr. Vivek Durai for coming here and giving a talk on KPM. Let us discuss for dinner and fellowship. Thank you.